For those of you who don't know, Canada and other governments around the world forcibly stole Indigenous children, and kept them in what they call these residential schools, run by the government and also multiple religious denominations, mainly by the Catholic Church. And so when you hear, or maybe you just hear a thing, oh, it's something, there were children that were found up in Canada at these schools.
Right.
The story is they were taken. There were night raids. This was actually codified into law, and it was to basically wipe Indigenous folks completely off the planet. That's not. I'm not even. And now, the pain and the trauma here, it's really hard to quantify. It's hard to even describe. Basically, if they weren't kidnapped, even without the parents' knowledge, then the parents were told, you have to give up these kids or you're going to prison. So there was many different ways they took these children, and they put them in these schools. The first thing that they did was they cut their hair, which in the Indigenous culture is their hair is very important. It's a sense of pride. It's a sense of their identity. So they took that from them. Then they changed their names to the names of saints and angels. So they no longer had their name, and they were forbidden to speak in their native tongues. They were forbidden to demonstrate any identifiable piece of their culture, whether it be dance or customs, anything like that. And the punishment was severe is not even the word, and they were beaten, they were abused. The more you dig into this stuff, I mean, it's just horrific isn't even the word too. Let me just see what they say. I mean, so in Canada, the only reason why we're even talking about this right now on the show is because the survivors spoke out. And this was it's very important to get this across. It's just incredible. It's called multi-generational trauma. And when you do this to someone, it's not just the children. And for the record, there are thousands upon thousands of children who never made it home. And that's what these unmarked graves are, and these mass graves are that you're hearing about on the news. And again, it's mostly these communities that are taking upon themselves to actually search for these children in the hopes of actually returning them home. So I just want to go back real quick to that. I know we're trying to fit a lot in here, but the multi-generational trauma. So imagine the guilt on the parents for when they take these children. As a parent, there's two of them on the show right now. I mean, not being able to protect your own children, not being able to save them, really. And so what happens? There's depression, there's alcoholism, there's drug abuse, there's suicide. There's a report that we share here. It's called Survivors Speak, and the whole point of this is to hear from the survivors, right? And I was going to read something from this thing, and I just asked people to just go and check it out, because it's one thing to hear about a child offing themselves, but to hear it over and over and over again is it's telling of the pain and the again, indescribable torture and suffering that these children went through, that this entire community went through, First Nations people overall. Because it's crazy when you look at it. So as bad as like the suicide rate was for the children in these schools, which was much higher than the general population, the suicide rate was actually multiple times higher for second generation survivors. Like the people who actually made it out and had children, Wow. And I want to play, if we could just play that one quick video clip. This is in a survivor. It's enough, it's one thing for me to talk about this, but to hear from an actual survivor. She talks about this, and she also talks about the healing power of of actually sharing this story. So by listening to this, you're actually participating in the healing process. This was a woman, just real quick. This was a woman who was sent to these hellholes and was beaten severely for telling the head nun that she had just been raped by a priest there. And you know, the level of sexual abuse at these schools, it's you know, it's another whole level. I mean, I've never read anything like this before in my life.
Yeah, I'm gonna share her testimony. Obviously, a trigger warning that this gets into some serious content. So keep that in mind, folks. If that is something you wish to be concerned about, let's see if this works. Can you hear this? You guys heard that?
No, I don't hear it now.
Give me a second. It's difficult. It's outside of our normal way of doing things. So just hang on.
Hey, Chris, are you able to summarize
Yeah.
the video while Manny pulls it up?
Yeah.
You got that?
We didn't hear anything still. Yeah. So basically, I mean, again, so she got sent to one of these schools. She describes in horrific detail, basically her fingers being broken by being cut with a ruler. Now, you know, you can have a sharp ruler, you can have a dull ruler, but you imagine what it takes, the force it takes to break children's fingers with rulers. And it was this beating, that was only part of it. That was because she spoke out about being raped by these priests who ran these facilities. And, you know, she then describes, again, that multi-generational trauma. It's how it gets passed down. It just doesn't end. You know, for example, in these grave sites that they're finding, she then obviously fell into alcoholism. You know, she fell into alcoholism and she took it out upon her own children. And she's finding healing now, though, just from sharing this.
Let me try one more time, guys.
People don't know who we are.
Okay.
When I was young, I got kidnapped from home. A plane came around, gave a letter to my dad. My dad said, I don't know how to read. I never went to school. But my uncle Malou went to school. He said, they come for Muriel and Alice. What for? My dad said, I don't know. They have to go to residential school. I'm doing a little bit sewing. I thought I was going to do some sewing, but I'd rather tell my story because I really feel it has to be healing somewhere. We were left in school for 9 years. Yeah, that's when lots of tragedy happened to me. I just turned 14. I talk about it, I'm so hurt. My fingers are all broken. They hit my finger ruler down because I got raped and by priests. That's where I learned to be who I was 40 years ago. I was no good. I was so mean to my children.
So I mean, this is just one of countless stories. There was an estimated 150,000 children taken in Canada, and again, this was all over the world. I'm not gonna. We'll cut this brief now because we have a lot more to cover. But just recently, Deb Haaland, who's the very first Indigenous head of the Secretary of Interior here in the U.S., has announced that she wants to have an investigation here because those schools were here too.
Wow.
We will be following up. Thank you, Chris. It is a story that, again, I didn't really understand the depth of until we worked on it. Obviously, you know, other organizations are covering it, but we encourage our folks to look into this. We will be bringing you more, and it will start hitting a little closer to home.